Good afternoon, welcome to Dubai and welcome to MEED Live. My name is Richard Thompson, I am the editor of MEED. We have a special broadcast of MEED Live today. We're going to look at the transforming the industrial and utilities sector using digital data. And to join us on this special broadcast, I have with me Ali Saleh, who is the Vice President and Chief Commercial Officer from GE Digital for the Middle East and Africa. Welcome, Ali.
Thank you, Richard.
And we also have Banu Shekhar, who is the Chief Digital Officer from GE Power for the Middle East and Africa. Welcome, Banu.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us today. So we're going digital. The world is digital. Everything is data. Data is the asset. And for all of us in everyday life and in business, it's about how we manage data, how we use that to drive improved performance and efficiency and deliver return on investment. We have big picture drivers such as climate change, such as urbanization, the squeeze on financial resources. All of these things are forcing us to look at how we operate and manage our systems, and digital data really is at the key, at the heart of the solution to all of this. But on the other side of the coin, as we've seen over the past week, challenges are emerging around the shift to the Internet of Things. Cybersecurity would be front of mind at the moment. But the skills needed, the cultural change, all of these issues have to be addressed, and we'll cover them today. Now, GE, for me, GE is one of these great historic brands, 125 years old, you provide electricity and technology, but recently you've been described as the world's oldest startup. You've launched GE Digital, which is your business, Ali. What is GE Digital? Why is GE not just sticking to electricity generation?
Yeah, thank you, Richard. GE Digital is driving digital transformation across industries, be it power, aviation, healthcare, food and bev, logistics, and others. When we talk to decision makers and customers, they share with us their pain points, and their pain points is all about cost, access, and quality. They have a burning platform and they want to leapfrog. And the burning platform...
The burning platform, what is that?
The burning platform is all about productivity gains. They need to drive more productivity. They want digital innovation to fuel growth. And this is the opportunity where we look at ways to help them grow faster and drive productivity gains.
Okay, so that's why GE's shifted into this digital space, and we can come on to that in a lot more detail. In the power sector, Banu, why is the digital transformation relevant to GE Power?
So if you look at power sector, it is going through a lot of changes because numerous different source of generating power is coming into. If you look at Abu Dhabi itself, we are putting 4 gigawatt of nuclear power plant. Solar are coming up. So if you look at utility sector and power generation, it was waiting to be digitally reimagined. And that's exactly what is going on. And GE has a big stake in the power business. And we want to be at the forefront of helping our customer to take the business model where it is a lot more profitable and cost effective.
Okay, thank you. So Ali and Banu today are going to be here to talk with me about the digital transformation in the industrial and utilities sector. And we'll touch on some of the points that have been mentioned. You can ask them questions directly by using the screen in front of you. Just underneath the viewing window, you will see there is a text field where you can submit questions. They will come up on the computer in front of me, and we can try and address your questions live on air as you send them in. So please take the opportunity to send in questions to Ali and Banu, or even if you just want to make some observations that add to the conversation. So let's go back to square one. I think you, Ali, you touched on digital transformation. So let's go to the macro. What at its heart is digital transformation?
When we talk about digital transformation, I'd like you to think about people productivity through culture, operating system, linking it to the vision and mission. The second thing is operations and processes. Do we have processes that are well defined? Can we optimize them?
So we're not just talking about then some technology change, we're actually talking about harnessing the technology change and changing our structures, our procurement processes, our everyday behaviors.
Technology is center stage, but everything around it matters. When we talk about productivity, it's about people productivity, process productivity, asset productivity. And around asset productivity and technology, It's about industrial entitlement. Am I reaching my industrial entitlement? And digital innovation cuts across wing to wing.
So it's not aligned by the traditional verticals. It's across. I mean, you already mentioned that you're providing digital services in food and beverage and healthcare and power. So it's not the traditional verticals. Things are changing.
It is across, and it's iterative. So, for example, if you focus only on technology, you can drive incremental progress for sure. But if you also add to it operations and people productivity, you take it to new heights. So it's iterative and it's a journey.
Okay, and for the power sector, I mean, I'm guessing that the power sector, which has huge capital costs, and then you have long life cycle running costs, so I imagine the gains from going digital are quite significant.
Yes, and especially if you look at the utility sector or the power sector, the old has not given up and the new has not arrived. So we are in the middle when I look at the technology. And if what I mean by it is, it was a linear chain. So the generation, there were companies which are involved with generating the power. There were people who were transmitting, and then the consumers were using it. Today, if you look at with the solar coming in, the people who were consuming the power are also generating the power. So it is becoming from a linear model to a network model. And the impact of the network model is that the value is going to shift and the requirement of people is going to shift. Especially on the power generation side, as you correctly said, these projects are $1 billion worth when they get implemented. And most of the time, it's not about the capex, it's all about the opex, especially in today's environment where every country is feeling the pressure. If you look at digital, the biggest advantage which you are going to get is what we call it as levelized cost of electricity. So when you're building a power plant, the biggest thing which you are worried about is actually what will be the cost to generate. Digital is helping to reimagine both. It is helping to understand what is the best configuration when it changes from the linear to network model.
And presumably, though, I mean, so we probably the audience and most people will have heard the promise of the digital transformation, the operational efficiencies and the capex savings, etc. But presumably, fundamentally, it comes down to individuals making different choices or changing what they've always done. Is that, for you, Ali, is that the sort of the big challenge in this digital transformation? It's getting people to change.
Yeah, I think it starts at the top. If there is a true burning platform and the organization want to leapfrog into a new era and drive productivity and growth, there has to be a common purpose and everyone is rallying behind it. This is where we see the fastest and best example of transformation. 5% of organizations that pursue transformation succeed. So yes, change management is a big deal and resistance. And unless the CEO of the company is the chief transformation officer that's embarking on it and speaking at every event and pushing, it's not going to be as easy.
And so if we can look at the GE journey, so you represent GE Digital, and GE Digital was launched about 1 year ago. What was the journey? Why was that launched, and how did you get there?
So GE has always had digital components for a long time. In fact, I'd like us to talk about when internet was deployed in our part of the world in Saudi Arabia in 1998. GE hosted and deployed the first internet in the country.
Really?
So yes, and we've been always innovating around digital within our business unit, be it healthcare, our PAC solution, or power, oil and gas. 5-6 years ago, we brought all of our software engineers together in a software center of excellence. And what we've realized that every GE business CIO has an opinion on how the system needs to run. And we needed a common platform. And this is where we spent a lot of time and energy and money, made mega investment in deploying our digital industrial platform called Predix. And Predix is the platform for the industry, designed by the industry
Is this what people call the industrial Internet of Things? Or it's GE's contribution to the industrial Internet of Things?
The platform is center stage for the digital industrial, and that's what we're all rallying behind. And we said, why not take it to our customers and make our install base more efficient? and why not leapfrog to emerging verticals and new businesses? And that's why we have now GE Digital.
Okay, so this Predix platform, if I am Saudi Electricity Company or Alba Aluminium Bahrain or DIWA in Dubai, I have facilities to run, operations to run, and I can create something on this platform that will capture the data and store it and track it on this platform. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. So the platform helps in linking operations and the physical assets and the science behind it, put it together, have a killer app where you have access to the right information at the right time to make the right decision, and have mega analytics tools for you to decide what to do on the business process.
I shouldn't probably... Let's invent a company called MEED Power and say that we're an electricity generator. I can come to the GE platform, Predix, and create an app for MEED Power, and my power station operations, my turbine performance or my output or whatever metrics I want to operate, they will be captured.
So look, Richard, first of all, we need to all understand what is this Internet of Things. Because if you look at, it's all about mass personalization. So if you look at Google today, whether Ali goes and type or you type or I type, we are going to get different results for the same thing which we are searching, because Google has managed to mass personalize this. If you look at the IoT world, from last industrial revolution, one of the problems of the last industrial revolution was that it built a very maintenance-based, schedule-based maintenance. Because there was no technology available at that point of time to personalize every
this would be where you replace a part every on a fixed time period, like every 4 years or something.
Exactly. So now with all this new technology which we are learning from the consumer world, we are bringing that to the industrial world, and it's all about mass personalization. So every motor is not same, as the way the Google is saying that anyone who comes and type in is not the same guy. So what it does is it gives the ability for you to actually understand that equipment in its context. Because today what happens is that most of the old industrial setup are sitting where there is a machine, but it is not realizing what its context is. And mass personalization is helping this equipment to look at part of there. So let me give you an example. A turbine is made at same design, same place. Definitely there is a changes. One goes to, say, a very cold location. One comes to the desert. Definitely when they land to their location, they need to configure themselves. They need to be aware. It's all about self-aware. Can we make the machine self-aware about their setup? And that's the IoT world. That can it be really intelligent about its context?
Okay, so you're talking about self-aware machines and intelligence. It sounds like artificial intelligence. So that's not here today, though, is it? You're talking about the future, and
we have started to see that. So if you look at it, our ability to understand when the machine will fail has improved a lot. Now, we always knew from our experience, but experience is one thing. What data is telling you is something very different. So today, if you look at it, we monitor almost pretty much all our turbines, all our aircraft engines. And one of the big change which is coming in is actually utilizing most of the data. So if you look at data was never a problem. There was always enough sensor, enough data. The problem really was that do we have the mechanism to actually understand what the data is saying? Because that was always there. No new sensor, not a lot of new sensors are getting in there.
And
I'd like to add to what Banu said and give an example. I've been around the region for a while, and when we sold MRIs or CT scanners in hospitals, and we attempted to deploy broadband connectivity to fix the machine remotely, technically, if the machine doesn't need spare part, 60-80% of the time you're able to fix it remotely. We would face resistance from the hospital saying, why do you want to get connected to our machine? The machine is so smart, and it has a lot of data, but no one is fetching that data. So the first thing is get connected. Get connected to the machine from the hospital, from the ecosystem, and fetch the data. Get insights. By getting insights, you're able to decide and get business decisions. For example, technician that's getting a patient prepared will use a protocol that take longer time than another technician. You've got variations. The same machine may do 10 CT scans a day, and another would do 400. That's 40x. business opportunity improvement and patient impact and radiation and everything else. So once you get connected and you get insights, you're then going to drive optimization, get optimized. Get optimized allows us to make the right decisions and drive the outcome.
So the first thing you're talking, what we're saying in summary is GE has created a platform called Predict. Every machine that's used in industry, whether it's healthcare or power, is generating data. It's not being used properly. That can go onto this Predict platform. An owner can have an app on the platform. All of the data will go there, and then there's software or whatever algorithms that can analyze the data and then tell you when you need to replace parts and how you to get more efficiency. That's what we're talking about.
I want to say a comment, then maybe Banu has to say a comment. I want to link it to the business opportunity, right? So if you look at the example I just gave, instead of adding another equipment or building another hospital, we're able to drive optimization within. But then if we want to drive innovation, we're able to have a protocol management tool based on American Radiology Society and drive appropriateness across industry based on industry entitlement. So the sky is the limit of where we can leapfrog. Not only this, if I have an asset,
So
asset.
what is industry entitlement? Is that do you mean like benchmarking? Or?
Benchmarking.
Right.
For example, why am I doing 10 CTs a day here and in another machine I do 400? It's all about underperforming asset. And if I'm able to bring in incremental flow, I'm going to be able to better utilize my assets. So digital cuts across to solve a business pain point.
Okay, so we can use this data to improve utilization. So we can see if an asset is being not used enough or if it's being overused. We can use it for predictive maintenance and presumably other things like customer behavior and things like that as well. What is the difference between the industrial Internet of Things, which we've talked about, and the Internet of Things? Is it not just the same thing?
So look, so now last year the balance has shifted. More machines are connected than actually humans. That's a big change. Now, if you look at the internet, the way it was built for a human input and human processing. You go to a website, you buy something, you go to a website, you search something. So it was human who was actually using the internet. In Internet of Things, it is machine talking to machine. And that makes it very much interesting, because if you look at what thousands of people will put into a social media site, a machine in a year, a machine can do it in like 2 days. What it means is also the tolerance for any error is a lot lower when it comes to the industrial setting.
Well, it's interesting you say that. We have a question here, and please continue to submit your questions using the screen in front of you. We have some that have come in already, and one here, which I think relates to the point you were just making. It says, how do you handle engineering data that is not accurate or is missing, or where there are discrepancies? So if you're saying machine is talking to machine, where's the quality control or the tolerances?
It's a very good question. So let me tell you, because that's a very common problem which any industrial owner will ask you. Look, so to build the value, what's happening here is that you have the knowledge, the physics of how this equipment works, and then you have the data. Now, for you to really make it work, I call it like 3 generations in 1 generation. So you need an experience of 70-year-old, a motivation of 25, and an imagination of 6-year-old. And why I say that is exactly because of that problem what the question was asked. Just by getting data and analyzing, you will not go far. And that's where GE is talking about the concept of digital twin. So digital twin starts with the knowledge of physics, how this equipment was built. And with time, definitely that equipment has deviated from its model, what it was built. And for you to analyze it properly, you need to keep bouncing the data which you are getting. And then for the question, if your model is built correctly, the physics model, if it is built, we call it as blueprinting. If the blueprint is correct, initially we always see that the data will fall into a band which is error. But as you are going to adjust your data, or as your model is getting adjusted, with time both will come together and a perfect digital twin will get created.
Yeah, and look, on data, you've got structured data and unstructured data. Unstructured data is when a technician is populating a field, machine data is structured. And when you're fetching structured data, you're able to provide the insights and the innovation needed a lot easier than unstructured data.
So what we're talking about here, if we're talking about the industrial and utilities sector, so in the Middle East, we have a lot of industrial and utilities operations. We're capturing their data, putting it onto a platform, and that can give us, help us improve efficiency and optimize asset performance and benchmark and predictive maintenance and all of these things we talked about. But I imagine, I can already imagine several challenges. So one is about cybersecurity. We've had this week, we've seen all of this ransomware in the news with the hacks around the world. So I guess my first question is, how do we ensure security if we're putting all of this data in the cloud? My second question, I think, is probably relates to sharing of data, transparency. A lot of these industries here are strategic or government owned. Maybe the culture is not to share, not to be transparent. And then my third question, I think, would be around the cultural change, getting people to change the way they behave. So if we can do that one at a time, cybersecurity, is it not a big risk putting everything in the cloud?
Look, your question reminds me, I was on stage maybe in the year of 1999. We're talking about internet banking, and cyber was top of mind for everyone. And today, we don't remember the last time we go to the bank because we feel internet banking is secure. Now, obviously, cyber attacks are there, and everyone needs to be well aware of. It's all about updating the policy, security policy, and keeping it up to date to prevent attacks. Operation security for industrial assets is key, and that's why GE invested in acquiring Worldtech in 2014. It's all about making sure our industrial operations is protected. There are many ways to update the security policy to ensure that the machine is smart to intercept abnormal command and shut down and prevent an attack from happening. We've got many examples around it.
Would you say, we have a conversation here we're having about capturing industrial data, putting it onto a cloud-based platform. I presume the traditional model is you have your data on location and on your own servers or your own computers. Is the cloud safer? Because with the cloud, I guess you have the state-of-the-art defensive security software, whereas not necessarily on location you might depend on your own.
First of all, the philosophy which GE is talking about is edge to cloud, because some of the analytics need to be run much quicker, and cloud is not the best. So that's why we call it as edge to cloud. Edge is like computing happening at the machine. Cloud is what happened in the cloud. You are right. Anything which was built to be connected is actually more safe than what something was not built to be connected. So all our smartphone, by definition, by design, are definitely more secure because they were designed day one to be connected and in that environment. Well, laptops initially or computer originated not to be connected, and they are getting used. So definitely it's a lot more safer. But let me take your second question, which is more on how we are seeing the power sector here. So it's like two worlds in one world. Some of the countries here, they are building their infrastructure. If you look at Iraq, if you look at Libya, a lot of countries in sub-Saharan Africa, they are building their infrastructure, and reliability is key for them. While some of the other countries who have built their infrastructure, and I'm talking about power generation, so if you look at UAE, Dubai, Saudi, they have built their infrastructure, and for them efficiency is important.
Okay.
So these two are two different angles which we are seeing.
Do you think so in the past 2 years in this part of the world, we've seen the fall in oil prices and recently the cut in oil production, so that has a major impact on government finances. The amount of revenues that countries are earning has fallen. That's put a squeeze on spending, government finances, and that we've all felt the impact over the past 18 months. Is that accelerating this drive for digitalization, do you think?
Well, a lot of people think that, but when I interact with the very senior officials, so like if you talk to the ministers and undersecretaries, I think especially in this region, there is a lot of demand for innovation technology. Definitely what you said helped the situation, because yes, there is definitely a pressure on the cost side. But if you look at Bahrain, if you look at Qatar, if you look at Dubai, everyone has a vision statement that this is where we want to be. Definitely, partially it is driven by that, but a lot is about, like, for example, DY is talking about blockchain and how it can be utilized on the solar sector.
Yeah.
Now, that's definitely driven partially by what you're saying, but a lot more by the thought process that, hey, we need to get the best technology in to solve the problem for us.
So the region, you would say, is more focused on delivering value services
Yes.
rather than just saving.
Yes, no, and
money.
yeah, because if you look at the discussion which we had in this region, especially if you look at RasGas, which is one of our customer on LNG train, that project started way back in 2014.
So RasGas, we were going to move on to some case studies, so you've
Yeah.
nicely taken us there. RasGas is a case study for you. They are LNG producer in Qatar. They
Yeah.
have 7 LNG trains, is
Yes.
that correct? Liquefaction trains?
Yeah.
What's their digital story? How does the
So
digital internet?
if you look at RasGas, it's like a big refrigerator, and they do a huge amount of liquefaction. The way to imagine it would be refrigeration. The only problem it is 1 kilometer long, and thousands of equipments are stacked for that particular process. It could be turbine, motor, pump, you name it, you will find it there. One of the challenge with such type of setup is that how do you know which equipment need to be attended now so that it doesn't fail? Now, if you look at traditional approach had been that you take that whole 1.5 kilometer long train and then stack it on your scheduled maintenance based strategy. What most of our customers, including RasGas, are saying that now, because the technology is available, why don't we become more cost effective? Because as Ali said, it's all about either making it more profitable or cost effective or serving your customers better. Their story is more on how can we go and attend a machine before it fails, and how can I better utilize the workforce they have to make the most effective maintenance strategy. Now, if you look at as a customer, they are definitely seeing, at least we are seeing a lot of benefit. They feel the same way. It is one of the first LNG which has gone digital, and that's like a true digital transformation.
And so RasGas has gone digital. They're using GE to support that transition. What has that meant? What have been the challenges there? I mean, how has that been easy for them to shift from what they did before to what they do now?
Look, so definitely they are addressing their own challenges, and I would have very limited preview to it, but I can talk about the project, which I understand. See, the biggest challenge is not about getting the data or collecting the data. It's all about what the question was asked earlier. How do you make sure that when you are making the digital twin, it is an accurate one? How do you make sure that the blueprinting, because you're almost creating a digital.
Are you talking about an accurate representation of the process chain,
Yes.
not the accuracy of the data, but the actual model,
Yes.
the digital twin?
Yeah,
And how do you do that?
Well, that's where the domain expertise come into the play.
Right.
And that's where I keep saying that it needs the experience of 70-year-old. Because for you to really understand how the machines are operating and how the interaction, because it's not about individual machine anymore. It's about the industrial setup.
So there is an interesting question. So Ali, on your side, and I don't know enough about GE Digital, but presumably you've got loads of guys, men and women, who are experts in programming and building digital solutions, but they're not chemical or process engineers. And presumably on the client side there's loads of process and chemical and structural engineers who aren't digital, I guess.
Yeah.
So how do you get those two communities to come?
I think this is it. It's the balance between digital and industrial talent talking together. If I am focused on the digital layer, the infrastructure layer alone, without intelligence on the industrial acumen, I'm not going to be able to get into breakthrough innovation. Going back to my example earlier, clinical excellence was needed, linking it to American Radiology Society to unlock a specific MRI or CT in radiology. If I remained in the infrastructure layer, I'm saying the system is connected, the link is up, I would not be able to drive innovation. So the examples Bano referring to require industrial depth. And this is why we are saying digital industrial go hand in hand.
So what's the question was about the accuracy of the data, and you're saying it's about the accuracy of the digital twin. I mean, is it easier to train your engineers, the ones who would be the traditional, the engineers, to learn the digital stuff, or is it easier to take the digital people and train them in engineering?
Let me elaborate on this. Get connected. We spoke about we're able to fetch data. Get insights from this data. I'm able to provide a dashboard to allow decision makers to make the right decision at the right time. Get optimized, meaning I'm going to influence the process and do something different with the process. And then get innovative is the next cutting edge, where we do something wild, because we have so much data and advanced data analytics. To get there, we need data mining. And data mining is an art, and we continue to invest in data mining. So our ability to fetch the data easily from diverse applications and able to do something with it. Then we need cutting edge data science and data analytics to drive this innovation and optimization. And we're spending a lot of time and energy and investment in industrial domain depth for data analytics.
And what does that mean? Training people? We're talking about new skill sets that you're having to build capacity, or does it mean investing in software and programming?
It's actually both. It is our ability to create a dashboard from data that is siloed based on the decision-making process. So we run into systems that do not have an ERP, and they've got data here and there. We're just able to fetch it and put it in a structured way and have a dashboard, or do a pattern recognition from a lot of the data and use advanced data science.
Okay, and we have another question here. This is slightly, it sort of follows on from what you're saying about investing in the skills and the training. So digitalization seems to require a lot of investment in technologies, whether it's the digital twin, the IoT, the data center, cybersecurity, or human skills. How do CIOs or CTOs build the business case to get that upfront investment? So what are the savings they can make and the efficiency gains?
That's like a misnomer. That requires you a lot of investment. Because in reality, if you look at it, the type of platform which are available, and there was a question earlier, what Predix is. So Predix is exactly trying to answer that. Is if you are an industrial house, how can you start with something very small? It's not about big bang change. Most probably that will fail. What it means is you need to get started on your journey. And to get you started on your journey, you really do not want to get into a situation where you have to hire a guy from MIT to come and tell you computer science. Maybe then you are starting from the wrong place. What you're looking for is a platform which gets you what Ali is saying, connect the asset, get the insight. There are a lot of algorithms available today which can help you with machine learning. Because the fact is that 80% of the value is going to come during the 20% of the journey. You will find the obvious things. So for example, we were looking at a heat exchanger which was not working properly, and when we went there we realized that forget about all this machine learning and everything, that door, people leave it open, and that's why that refrigeration thing was not working properly. So it's not really about the big bang change and all. Definitely you need the push or the vision, digital vision from the top. Otherwise, the journey will never start.
That's actually seems to me to be quite an important question. We're talking about a change in processes and technology as well as investment, or it's a debatable point about the level of investment. But it strikes me that this can only really come from the top down. Incremental change from the bottom is going to be very slow.
So, it's a transformation, it's a journey, and it's incremental. So a CTO or CIO may have a great idea based on a burning platform and a need, and it will drive incremental progress. But if the head of department or the chief operating officer has another burning platform, it will have incremental. Whichever pain point is costing the organization a lot more money and impacting quality and limiting access will get the bigger yield. Obviously, when you go to the CEO level, he's got 360 view on the pain point and will be able to prioritize big ticket items that will drive mega productivity growth. And this is where we see accelerator, because if I'm able to drive it and digital innovation funnels it, then the initiative will pay for itself. Going back to the question, how do you go back to the CIO or CTO and help them with the budget? The productivity opportunity will pay for itself in industrial assets. You know, I was with the CEO yesterday. The one asset he's referring to cost $2 billion. So there are industrial assets, and the power of 1% is relevant, and it will pay for the project for sure.
So yeah, in a $2 billion project, a 1% saving is or efficiency is huge.
And you know, last week when I was in Athens, ex-Prime Minister of Estonia was there, and he said something which really resonated big time. Estonia, a lot of people would not be aware, it's very digitally advanced, and there is 80% adherence to digital signature, while one of the Nordic country, which is actually also advanced, has only 30% adherence to the digital signature. And the difference, when we asked him, hey, what's the difference? Why Estonia is so well? He said that, look, when he was the Prime Minister, he said that the state is supposed to collect the data from people only once, and after that they need to reuse it. Now, so definitely to drive this digital transformation, you need, whether it is a country or whether it is a company, you need that coming top down, because there is going to be a lot of resistance, to be very open about it. But at the same time, the vision statement and taking the people together, that also need to be part, because everyone's work is going to change.
I was at a conference this morning talking about digital transformation in a slightly different context to this, and very quickly the conversation turned to the lawyers. The lawyers were at fault. They said the lawyers want everything in paper and they want everything signed or stamped. So let's not pick on the lawyers, but there is a sort of cultural change required as well, isn't there, not to do things the way we always did them and trust the data and the data sharing. Do you think that's the biggest challenge we face, Ali?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think if the process is to protect the organization and confidentiality signatures are needed, again, we've seen a big progress in this the past 20 years. Internet banking, another vivid example. If there is common purpose and everyone want to leapfrog, the no becomes a yes. And there are many ways to get the lawyers happy in the process.
Which is our objective, isn't it, for all of us? I have a question here. So this is about GE's organisation. How is the digital organisation across GE structured? Is there a central organisation managing, governing and budgeting all the different initiatives? Or is it decentralised, meaning that for each business segment, governance, management and financing is managed by the segments? So this is clearly for you, Ali. So within a giant organisation like GE, 320,000 people around the world, is the digital bit centralised or is it devolved?
Yeah, it's all about the customer, right? Everything we think about is about the customer, how we can help accelerate their transformation journey. So the business unit have account managers that have the relationship. They continue to listen to the pain points of the client, and they bring the entire organization with them, be it subject matter experts that know predicts or subject matter experts that know asset performance management or customer success organization that help and execute. So Bano and I are a great example. We're great partners. Bano calls a shot with the customers. He goes there, he understands them, he's got the relationship, and then we come along to support and execute. And we've got the same kind of relationship with emerging verticals.
So this is a little bit like you were talking earlier about bringing the sort of the cultures together, whether it's the engineering or the digital. So Banu, you're from the power side of GE, so you presumably you have departments full of power engineers and you deal with the clients, and then you'll work with Ali's digital engineers and digital scientists to produce solutions. So it's centralized, but then you shape according to...
And if you look at the guiding principle is what Ali was saying. So if you look at power generation, our customers are not looking for a lot of things. What they are looking for is to reduce their cost of producing power or to produce more with whatever they have got. These are the only two problem statements you will hear from like 99% of the customers. Now, on the other side, we don't want to be the software company of the world, because we are here to help our customers serve their customer better, or to help them to make more money or save their cost. When you look at it from that perspective, definitely it makes sense to have the building blocks of these things getting generated at a central location. Because if everyone is developing it, then first of all, as I said earlier, our idea is not to be the most advanced software company.
And I think that's interesting that you talked about being a software company, because for me, GE is a hardware company. I mean, obviously that's very simplistic, but that reflects the changing world, I suppose.
Yeah.
So how does that affect your relationships? With companies that previously might have been your competitors? Are they now partners? And how does it all change?
In a digital world, we need to maximize collaboration, and it's about fueling an ecosystem of developers to develop on your platform. So we continue to collaborate. We're proud. We've got now 26,000 developers developing killer apps on Predix, and these killer apps will continue to grow, and we will have more and more developers. We work with an ecosystem of channels and partners that are approved to execute, be it system integrators or telcos that can help us in the execution and the value chain creation. And not only this, we're seeing a pull from emerging markets. You mentioned earlier an example on manufacturing. A great packaging and manufacturer in Saudi, Obaikan, we just sent the release yesterday, are transforming. They want to be a smart factory, and we like their vision. We've got the solutions capabilities to help them, and we're going to work with them on asset performance management, on people productivity, on digital twin, on service utilization, but more importantly, on having the factory of the future. And this is
so if you're allowed to talk about a particular client. So this is a food and beverage manufacturer that you've been working with them to create a digital twin on the Predix platform. Is that correct? They have an app now for their processes, and their data feeds from their real facility into the digital facility, and they can then go in and monitor their productivity and things like that.
Yeah, so they're very successful, and they've got impressive market share. They have sophisticated ERPs already up in place. So the pain point is how we can leapfrog and differentiate versus competition by driving further productivity beyond what I can do with an ERP. So the use case has to do with the communication between the enterprise and the trading partners. So to do that, you need a platform that helps them communicate and maximize collaboration. That's one. Second, to leapfrog within the factory, you need to have predictive patterns. The digital twin will look at their industrial asset and will have system modeling and will predict the failure before it happens, so that they're able to plan their scheduling and production as needed.
Okay, and it's interesting that, so Banu, you're here to talk about the power, or you specialize in the power sector, and we've referred to the industrial sector broadly, but you, Ali, presumably you get to see different sectors. So you've mentioned healthcare, you've mentioned manufacturing. Is there a notable difference in culture or needs in different verticals? So do the private sector manufacturers have a more progressive attitude towards going digital compared to a government-owned utility? Or is it down to individuals?
I think there is similar classification. So you can, again, either optimize within enterprise at a department level, or you can drive optimization within enterprise across different departments, and this is what digital transformation is for. Or you can drive optimization outside the enterprise with your trading partners, and this is when you need to maximize collaboration and have an ecosystem of collaboration. So if you look at the classification, it's applicable for a factory, it's applicable for a hospital, or applicable for a big power plant.
So I get that the applications or the process is applicable, but I'm just wondering culturally if some industries are more naturally suited to making the digital shift because of the nature of the beast, the type of drivers that they have.
I think it's dangerous for us to classify industries based on the behavior of the culture, right?
Okay.
So within a factory, if we have the CEO switched on and they're ready for digital transformation, they're going to endorse it faster than the factory next door. So it all depends on linking culture, process, and industry entitlement together.
So again, it comes down to individuals or key individuals.
It comes to sponsorship on the top. It comes to burning platform as well.
So for people out there who are involved in looking for efficiencies or better maintenance regimes or delivering digital, the key people they have to influence are the sponsors, the chief execs or the owners.
Yes, but also to think long and hard about the business pain points and the impact. Everyone likes to talk about Uber as an example, but the reason Uber is so easy for all of us to relate to because it solved a pain point for a lot of people, and it's matching supply and demand, and it's just becoming the example for every one of us to think of what we can do. So if I go back to my healthcare example, if that CT machine or MR machine is used for 8 hours, why can it be used for 24 hours? Because the patient backlog in that hospital is 6 months. So we've got a pain point. It's there. The patient wants to be seen, but the system is not receiving that patient. So how can we optimize the asset? And this is where we need to link the people productivity, operations and process to digital connectivity.
Okay, we have a question here that relates to this actually, and maybe you've already answered this, but if you're not a board director, but you are tasked with digitizing a business, what advice would you give for how to win buy-in from internal stakeholders? How do you sell the message?
So it's very important we define the current state. So current state, the heat map, the pain points, and then dream of the desired state based on the industrial entitlement and what's happening, and have short-term, mid-term, and long-term projects. Prioritize it based on what can be delivered now. We all need oxygen. We need quick wins to celebrate. And then those productivity gains will fuel further productivity. And it's iterative. No one has a magic stick to transform a company overnight. It's very important that you understand the run rate. Without a run rate, you're not going to be able to drive productivity improvements.
Look, and then the other thing which I will add, like how do you, because see, every customer which we touch today, some of them have got a very high level of sponsorship, some of them have not. And the people who are doing very good gaining this sponsorship is starting small, showing the value, and not only showing the value in terms of reducing the cost of profitability, finding a new business avenue. Because as I said earlier, when you are trying to digitally, or whenever an industry is going to get digitally transformed, there will be definitely new revenue stream. And even if it is very small, for $1 billion company, even if it is like few 100,000, the company can see that, okay, looks like, this thing will work. Or if you are able to serve a new business segment or new customer segment, that will get you a lot of sponsors.
Again, I don't know if you're able to answer this, or how does the commercial model work? If somebody sets up on Predix with an app using GE to create a digital twin and they're on your platform, do you just sell them the solution and then move on and they're on their own, or is it an ongoing commercial relationship?
There is an ongoing. So if you look at most of our contracts are 10-year plus.
Okay, and do you get, in terms of the savings or the efficiency gains?
So there are different business model. We call it as outcome as service, platform as service. So when platform as service, customer comes, they build it, and then they get revenue out of it. Outcome as service is that we are actually signing up for the outcome, and we get a piece of it. Now, if you look at the best way for a small industrial or a large one is to start is pick a platform, because as I said earlier, you are doing this to make more money or deliver more value to your customer, not really to figure out new tech or new thing in the computer science. That's not the idea. Pick a platform. And then once you pick a platform, look for something where you can really show the value. If it can save money, you are like number 3. If you can bring more profit, you're number 2. If you really want to be number 1, then bring a new segment, new customer, new way of serving your existing customer.
Okay. let's look at another case study now. So you talked about RasGas just a moment ago. I know that you also have been doing work with Saudi Electricity Company,
Yes.
the national electricity generation company in Saudi Arabia. Tell us a little bit about your SEC project.
So if you look at Saudi Electricity Company, and a lot of these informations are publicly available, so we can talk about it. They are thinking about building different GenCos. That's a separate discussion, but what ACC realized that there is a lot of data and they can make a lot better decisions. So one of the use case I can tell you is on their fuel demand management. ACC gets fuel from someone else, they give it to the power plant uses it. Now every time they have a difference between what they forecasted and what actually was needed, it creates a challenge for them. Now if you look at, to do that, the way the power plant works is that you know that what's the efficiency of each of your power plant, and you know the fuel, and you dispatch the fuel, you get the electricity out of it. As simple as that. But then it gets complicated and interesting, because depending upon where that machine is, it's in terms of maintenance cycle, the efficiency of machine can be very different, or what's the weather condition, or what's the quality of the fuel. Now what ACC or the other utility companies are trying to do is, can we make those decisions real time? Because the fuel is not going to be consistent always, and few percentage point can make a lot of difference, or the weather could be different that day. Can you really create a situation where you are creating the most cost effective electrons when it comes to fuel? Because at the end of the day, it is going to be consumed the same way. So Saudi Electricity Company has decided to put all the, not all, but 16 of their power plant onto Predix, and they have got all their data. They are building what we call it as digital environment, I think you put it in the right way, to drive different use cases. Now the use cases which are relevant today may not be relevant 6 months down the line.
So they've put, if I can just, they've put 16 of their plants on Predix on a single platform, which they can track the data and look at the dashboards. How many different units of equipment or components?
Oh, it runs into like thousands and thousands of it.
Okay, so this is like nationwide. Saudi Electricity Company has got is tracking thousands and thousands of data points from their different units, and that tells them they can benchmark them against each other and look at variations. And how has that got? I don't know how old this project is, or what have been the outcomes.
It's definitely in progress. We have started to see the results, and the results are very encouraging, because one way you may think, by the time you add all the power plant, there are so many equipment, will you be really able to make an informed decision? But when you look at the results which we are seeing, because ultimately what you are looking for is to fix the outliers, and there are not a lot of them in reality.
So but presumably they could do that before with bits of paper going slowly by post. So what you're talking about is adjustments that can happen
real time,
almost in real time.
Yes, and it was next to impossible, because you're talking about like terabyte of data. We got a data from one of the smelter, and out of curiosity I went to check how many data points in a month they have, and it is actually 11 million rows.
Wow.
So think about it, in a month a smelter has generated, just one smelter has generated 11 million rows. So for you to really bring the consistency between different parts, we are deviating to a smelter, but for anyone to really think about it, to bring the efficiency, consistency, they need to leverage the existing technology.
So first you've got to build the digital twin, then you've got to capture the data, then you have to design the software to do the analytics on those 11 million rows, and then it pushes out the output to some human. The human gets involved at that point to...
Yes. But also it's about the GE store, right? Because this is what differentiates us. We have solutions across businesses. If you look at the water industry as an example, there is a need for us to innovate at desalination plant, but then the way water is distributed from point A to point B, whether there is water leakage, the way water is stored in the reservoir, and then the water is pushed downstream to residents, and the termination point, how is it managed? If you look at smart metering for electricity and make a mirror analogy to smart metering for water, it's possible. If you look at pipe leakage for oil and gas and look at pipe leakage for water, it's possible. So the GE store and the GE know-how allows us to cut across best practices from across industries and bring it together and create a unique solution for our environment.
Okay, so we're coming to the last few minutes of the conversation, and if you wish to submit a question to the guys, please do it now. We have 5 minutes to go. I'd quite like to look forward a little bit about, we've done a lot of conversation about where we are today and how we've transformed over the past 5-10 years. Where will we be 10 years down the line from here? Will this will be a kind of historic conversation, and everything will be on apps, on cloud-based platforms, and will it all be artificial intelligence, robots doing the analytics? Where will humans fit into it, and how much efficiency will we have gained in our processes?
Sure.
Easy questions.
Look, around the corner, 2020, we're forecasting industrial internet to exceed $250 billion in potential market size. As we speak now, we're talking about concepts for factory of the future where robots are included, and there are successful robotics deployed in factories right now. Banu explained that now we're becoming sophisticated. We're able to fetch data and analyze it and do something with it. Obviously, it's all up to our imagination of where we can take this in 10 years. There will always be the standard industrial processes that have not leapfrogged 10 years ago versus what they are now. But clearly, the need for us to get smarter, reduce variations, and use cutting-edge technology evolution is needed. If we look at the internet, and again, where we are, back in the days it was about the infrastructure layer and ability to send a package from here to there. Today, no one's talking about the infrastructure because we feel the infrastructure is readily available no matter where we go. So it will always be faster. Second, we were worried about submitting an image that's heavy. Today, there are patterns where we're going to be able to predict an image and read an image with 20% of the data. So we're able to read in between bits that are submitted. I don't need every single bit to be submitted. I'm able to regenerate the image on my own. And it's not about having a flashy and highly technological advancement. It's about productivity gains and improving margins. And this is the opportunity for all of us.
And what do you think, to get from here to there, what are going to be the drivers? And particularly I'm thinking within the Middle East context, the adoption of this stuff. Are the drivers going to be cost savings, or is it, as Banu said earlier, is it actually just the desire to be the best?
If you look at to your prior question, how it would look like, because though I'm a businessman, I don't predict things, but if you look at it, next software company, and if I have to put three things which we will look forward to, one is the next big software company will not be a software company. So that gives the opportunity to all the big industrial houses to get into the software business. The second thing is,
the next big software company
will not be starting from a software company. So one of these is industrial company will be big software company. The second thing which will happen is that the things will get so much digitally transformed that the starting point need to be correct. So if you look at other manufacturing companies of car other than Tesla, they are putting a lot of software into their car. But when you sit into Tesla's car, it's like a computer with wheel, not wheels with smart. So it's going to really transform. You're not really thinking about incremental. It is going to be drastically changing the things. And if you look at third and most important, jobs are going to become more interesting. Because when you really imagine and look at most of the industrial jobs, after a few years, it's pretty monotonous. By 5th or 6th year, the guy really knows in and out of it, of how these things react, what's going to be his reaction. So definitely the jobs are going to be more. More jobs will be created than actually what people are thinking that it would, because the intersection is very interesting. You need the domain expertise, you need the software skills, you need the cultural element of it. A lot more jobs will get created than actually will get eliminated.
Okay, so quite a lot to look forward to. Things the change is going to accelerate, new things will emerge. if you want to talk to Ali and Banu further or get involved in the conversation, I'm very pleased to announce that GE and MEED are going to be running a one-day forum in partnership. The forum will be called Transformations in Power. It will run on the 16th of October here in Dubai at the Westin Mina Siyahi Hotel here in Dubai. In the resources tab on the screen in front of you, you can find some information about this conference. And at that event, as I said, we'll be looking at these topics in more detail, the transformation in the power sector with GE and MEED and a host of other industry leaders and guests. So you're all welcome to attend. And if you click on the resources tab in front of you, you can find out more. That's brought us to the end of today's show. So thank you very much, Ali Saleh, Vice President and Chief Commercial Officer for GE Digital, Middle East and Africa. Banu Shekhar, Chief Digital Officer, GE Power, Middle East and Africa. Thank you both very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.